So, Payne, thanks so much for being here with us.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah,
we're super excited.
We're excited just to be able to sit down and just have a chat. And how are you? And what's going on?
How am I is a pretty broad question.
Yeah.
So I'd say if I'm checking in today, it's just trying to enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about it. We've got a couple young kids, career, life, and just trying to hang on and enjoy it as we go.
Yeah.
What's summer like for parents of young kids? Can I just cut in as the childless one of the three of us? So you've got, and you're recently anointed girl dad. Are you a girl dad?
I am a girl dad. Eric and I have talked about this.
Yes.
So Eric, why don't you lead off? What is summers like? This is the first summer, right?
It is the first summer with my second one.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah. I'm sure you get more sleep than both of us.
I get all the sleep, guys.
But my kids both sleep great. It's just when it's more my 3-year-old who wants to slide right in, and then it's just busy, and he nonstop runs in circles. So, that's it. Just a lot of circles. The carpet's starting to wear,
So one of the things that is a good connecting point for the three of us to move into like real substantive conversation, we should be talking about leadership. And Payne, you came into, you were familiar with the college before, but you most recently were here in a professional capacity leading our Blazer Summit. Tell the folks at home what you did for us for the summit, and then we'll kind of plug in toward leadership.
Yeah, so had the opportunity to be the keynote speaker at the Blazer Summit this last year. I think, was it not the first one, but the first full, there's some uniqueness to it. Let's just leave it at that. And so we really focused on how do we connect people. I love connecting people. One of my, I think really my life's purpose is inspiring meaningful connections. There's a lot of capacities to that, but I just love meeting new people, love connecting people, love creating communities. And so what we did there was really an activity around core values. Because at the end of the day, we all have core values. And the common denominator or the connection is dependent on finding common ground, right? And so if we can drill down to, we all have core values, let's talk about them. They're not going to be the same, but let's talk about them. That can be the starting point of a common ground that you build a significant relationship on, or enhance your relationship because you didn't even know what their core values were.
So Payne, we got to know you as a facilitator, but let's kind of peel the onion a little bit more. Tell us more about, you're a student of leadership, you do it in your consulting work all the time. What kind of leader are you? How do you describe like the style, or I know you're a John C. Maxwell guy.
Yeah.
So how do you define your brand of leadership? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm not sure if I've ever been posed that specific question. When I think of leadership, I use John's definition. It's influence, the ability to influence someone. That can be for good, that can be for bad, you can be manipulative, it can be positive, but when you come from a place of authenticity and genuine, it's influence. And my leadership brand or style, I would say, is continually evolving. If we go back to where I started, I've always been in sports, and I love being a part of sports. I'm naturally wired to build relationships. I love being on stage. I love just being around people. Now, that the extreme of that is I fear rejection. And so it's funny how I love to be around people, but if my headspace is in a bad place, I'll avoid people because, well, what are they going to think about me? But bringing it all the way back, it's been an interesting natural progression for me of, I would say I was a natural born leader. Like I had skills, but I wasn't the person that studied it. And so I learned it and developed it through experiences.
Okay.
And then when I went into my job, it was actually going into probably a very poor position that didn't align with a lot of my skills and abilities. And over time, seeing and reflecting back how wrong of a situation, wasn't bad, but an inappropriate or misaligned situation caused me to really jump to a new opportunity.
Okay.
And my leadership has really evolved through all of that.
Yeah, and it seems to me that your approach to leadership is really focused around authenticity. and realness, which is creating vulnerability, but also puts you in that scope of rejection. And that kind of links to a conversation that we had earlier this week. If we want to really go deep real early into the podcast,
why not?
We were talking about imposter syndrome, and you're probably a great person to ask about this just because of the scope of your consulting work. So my first leading question into this is, are you like us, and are you a sufferer of imposter syndrome?
I would be willing to bet I'm worse. I grew up with a very unhealthy relationship with failure and humility. I think that's really where it starts. Humility in the sense of not accepting the gifts that you're given. We're all uniquely given gifts, right? And we're good at some things, we're bad at other things. It's just the way it goes. But I grew up in a very conservative household. I don't think it's wrong that it wasn't intentional, but just taking compliments was hard. And so very quick to flip that. And then my fear based on rejection of failure, those two things were kind of the foundation of my imposter syndrome. And the desire to be accepted by so many people, I would put people on pedestals very quickly. And as soon as they were up there, it dramatically impacted how I showed up. You said authenticity? Absolutely. One of my, I would say probably one of my core values, but the challenge is living authentically.
Yeah.
With that fear of rejection in the back of my head. Who am I to come alongside people like HK? I remember I put HK on that pedestal the first time she walked into the training meeting. When we were doing the facilitator meeting, she came in confident, bright clothes.
Sweatpants.
I don't remember sweatpants. That was the image I had.
I was like,
and I'm
the
like,
one meeting in the
man.
sweatpants. Why?
And willing to speak her mind, and she's going to see right through me. And so it was, thankfully, I leaned into it and recognized, hey, you got to go there. And so you and I just started bantering back and forth. And I was able to calm myself down and say, man, she's awesome, and she brings some real great things to this opportunity and this facilitation.
Yeah. I think that what we're talking about self-awareness and using that in everyday life, but also in leadership, I view leadership as an extension of teaching, that you exhibit leadership in teaching, and there's really not a lot of research and discussion about teaching as a function of leadership, but I really do see them as connected in that way. But between the three of us, I think that what you were talking about earlier about nobody really modeled that for me, or I wish I had somebody to be more intrusive, I think maybe that's who we are becoming. We are becoming the leader that we needed at that time. I think if I had someone who was more intrusive when I was 18, 19, 20, and been able to pull more of the stuff out of me, or to, instead of getting me to focus under the microscope on what I could be improving and tinkering with, I just needed somebody to show me yeah, but look at all this good stuff that's going on.
This summer, I took a page out of a book about vulnerability. I want everybody to go around the room and say something nice about everybody in the room. Like, what's your favorite thing about them? And the last thing is you have to say something nice about yourself. And going around the room, I could sit here and go, Payne this, HK this, and then it was torture. And so all of that stuff tied together, I do get to see the students at their best of the best, and I've seen some pretty incredible lows that I'm thankful that I was there to be able to go through that with them. And it's breaking that mold of, hey, you don't have to be who they expect you to be. You can be exactly who you want to be. So who do you want to be? Tell me, and I'll work on that with you. And so the obstacle is that mold that they feel like that they've been put in.
It's so easy to get lost in all those opinions, all those perspectives, all that pressure, all that expectation. And the more you can be anchored in your knowledge of self and what your skills are and what your values are, that's something you can trust.
We don't have a culture or society that has helped create these problem solvers or these self-aware people who know that. And so, yeah, if you're working with 18-year-olds, they've got some pretty bad habits to unbreak. You're working with 35-year-olds, it's even worse. You're working with 45 or 55, it's worse. And so it takes time and practice and patience. And in today's society, patience is very hard to come by.
Yeah. If you were to pick someone or even a fictional character, alive or dead, that you think this is a good model of a leader? Who comes to mind for you?
Yeah, Eric, why don't you go ahead? There's too many names flying to me.
What's unfair to you is this is the one thing I prepared. This is the one thing I got a heads up on. So,
to Eric.
It's no secret right above your head is a believe sign, and if it looks familiar, it's from Ted Lasso, TV show. I'm sure. I know you're familiar. I'm hoping.
I know of. It keeps coming up, so I'm going to have to tune into it.
So when you're ready to just be broken down emotionally, go ahead and tune into Ted Lasso.
So Ted is just this. It's this fictional character, Jason Sudeikis, who's just okay being not okay, but also an American football coach thrusted into the European Football League as a premier head coach, and has no idea what he's doing, doesn't even know what a pitch is, what training is, like all these terms that I very clearly learned on the show. But right at the beginning, you get the first lesson, be a goldfish. And everybody looks super confused. What do you mean be a goldfish? Goldfish have a 10-second memory. So hey, if something bad happens, forget about it and move on. And what a piece of leadership. The vulnerability, the issues that he deals with, not willing to ask for help, and then learning, I gotta have help.
Ted Lasso was the right show, showing up at the right time.
Exact right time.
We collectively needed a show that would model that. I'm a former student affairs person turned faculty member, and so my leadership scope of approach is George Koo from the 70s, and really it's a very simple model of support and challenge. That if you want people to work at their highest level and put out the highest quality product, the quality of your resources has to match the level of challenge. And so when I think about, do students have fun in my class? Yeah, but I work them hard, and I make them work a lot harder than they probably expected to or wanted to. But then I also have to realize that if the level of challenge goes up, so does the level of resources and support.
What I'm hearing in your class is like you push them, and at times those kids will hit the guardrails, but that's what they're there for, because you have to fail. In order for you to develop as a leader, you have to fail, right?
Yeah.
And I think part of my struggle growing up was probably my own doing. I put them on this pedestal, and I was looking at leaders that were so far ahead of me and so naturally good. Like, that must be easy. And I forgot about all of the work and process that went into it. And that's what you're getting to do with these students. Not only do you give them guardrails, but you help them find their uniqueness. So you know what? Maybe they don't take that path. They're going to take that path. But they're not going to fall off the cliff and end up completely demoralized and start back at the beginning.
We've hit a lot and deeply on leadership and authenticity and how we connect that, particularly with students. We want to talk more about the concept of career pathways, but actually, you have a special guest to bring in. Yeah. Tell us about her.
Like you just said, we've been talking about what's the student's perspective, what's going on in the student's brain, and we are lucky enough to have one join us. So Kaydence Gregory is going to join us here. Kaydence is an incoming sophomore, being her second year here at John Wood, and was most recently at the end of last year voted by her
a jury of her peers.
By her peers to be the student trustee. So Kaydence is sitting on the board of trustees.
It's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. So
it's a huge deal.
Welcome to our just little conversation.
We may do some sort of note comparing with how did you fall into your actual real major, and how many changes did it take? And I think that when we were college students back in like the 1890s, I'm talking about myself here, back in the 1890s,
did they have college, or was it university?
It was like the Sally Struthers
university. Yes, I went to university.
It's university.
that old adage of like, well, you pick one and of course you're going to change it. And the national average at the time that we were traditional age college students, it was like 4 or 5 times was the national average for changing career pathways. And what we know as people who grew up to be imposter syndrome suffering adults is that
recovering.
It's not good for the heart to try so many things just randomly, like, I don't know, this is one I haven't tried yet. So I started college as a political science major, and then I sort of really made my way around. And when I found a connection with English and communication, that totally made sense. And I could look back and see a lot of moments and things that I had done that I was like, oh yeah, that was a future English major moment right there. Career Pathways is a way to help students really use good resources that will connect them with skills and values and knowing themselves in a way that allows them to choose a career pathway, and to do that sooner than junior year, sooner than sophomore year, really to start out with the end in mind. And we know that, and I know as a teacher, that students and their ability to buy into their coursework is so different when they see the meaning that it has.
There are so many external factors that can make the decision for us. And I firmly believe the advisors I had in my life, they were giving me the best information that they had. But what they didn't do was help me see, well, where does that fit in me? And when I hear what you're saying, and I would love your take on this and see what your perspective is what you're talking about is getting them somewhere, but getting them there because of something they see.
Yes.
It might be wrong, but you're getting them there, and you know what? We're going to walk through it with you, because if it is wrong, as you were sharing a little bit of your story before, we're going to redirect you so that we can get you, like you said, Eric, there quicker and accelerate it. Because I don't think our society today helps is set up to help kids, adults, us do this. It's all, well, the answer's 3 easy steps away. No, it's not.
You're trying to shift the focus from what you're expected or what you're told into what do you want to do. And it's not putting too much pressure on the student. It's not saying, you have to decide right now and it's going to affect the rest of your life. There was a point in time where I was a high school student and I thought, I have to decide a major and then that's what I'm going to do the rest of my life. What if I hate it? What if I do all this schooling, waste all this money, and then I'm not happy? And it turned out actually that my senior quote was, always choose happy, money will follow. You can change it always. You can have hobbies that don't have to be a career. You can still enjoy things outside of your job. You're always going to find a way to make money, whether that's because you were an accounting major like your mommy wanted you to be, or you decided, I might be good at math, but I don't enjoy this. I want to have a flower shop, or I love animals. I want to be an ag student, even though you never grew up on a farm. I think it's important just to treat students as people and not as students, not as someone that has to go to college or a prospective recruit that's going into your college. They're just a person, and I think you need to talk to them as such. I just think it's important that you give kids the freedom to decide who they want to listen to, because whether you guys like it or not, you'll never have the control over, well, my mom and dad expect this of me, or I get academic validation, I want good grades. This is something that I've worked for and I don't want to give that up yet. Like you said, it's not giving it up. You're allowed to change it. You're allowed to decide what your core values are. And even if you gathered those values later on based on an advisor that you talked to or based on a professor that you met, as well as it doesn't have to be because your counselor told you so, or because you admire Ted Lasso or someone on TV or someone that you have put on a pedestal and you feel that you have to reach them, you have to reach their potential, and you have to hurry up and you need to be better and you need to be grown and you need to know this and you need to know that. It will happen. And that's something that I can personally say I've struggled with and didn't really realize it until you're on the other side of it. I took a year to feel sorry for myself, and that came with expectations of parents and family members and even fellow classmates that did go straight into four-year universities, or my parents saying, you were it, you were going to go to college, you did so good and you lost all this potential. And that is hard to hear. That is so hard to have, but I think it came really, really deep-rooted with expectations I had for myself, but knowing they weren't going to look like what I thought they would. One night I was crying and I said, I need to figure my life out. I need to get it together. And that's such a common emotion that people have. And it's not going to happen like that. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's not all your fault if it didn't go according to plan. I actually applied to a 4-year university, or intended to, and I saw that their admissions had closed. So I start blubbering. It's the end of my world. I thought I was going to turn it around, and boom, I can't. But I said, there's still John Wood. I can still do that. So I applied, and it was scary as well, but I think it helped that I had a mentality of I have nothing to lose. So I went ahead and I applied. I did everything over the phone. I scheduled a appointment to register for my classes. I didn't have my own phone plan at the time. I didn't have my own car at the time. I had to borrow a friend's car. I took a video of myself in the parking lot the first time I registered for classes. I was so nervous. I was like, who do I talk to? I can't call my mom and say, oh gosh, I'm excited, but I'm nervous. I don't know what to expect. There's nothing you can do better than to just do it. It's not going to hurt you. The worst that's going to happen is that's a door closed and there's another one to open. It's never the end of the world. So then I came to my first orientation, which albeit was a year ago today, according to my Snapchat memories, where I met Eric Foster. And it was so crazy to look at a room full of people that may have enjoyed being there. But Eric asked this room, he goes, who's happy to be here? Who's excited? And I was near tears the entire time. I shot my hand up. I'm so thrilled to be here. And from that day, a year later, I didn't expect anything that would have happened to me. I didn't have a plan of, I'm going to go in and I'm going to have this major. I'm going to be a part of student government, let alone be student trustee. I tried to give myself the benefit of the doubt. I tried to give myself leniency and know that it's okay, you're going to figure it out. You're going to figure it out. So here I am, I'm a business marketing major, and I didn't think I would be. Here I am at John Wood, and I didn't think I would be.
I think that you hit on, Kaydence, one of the biggest myths that I think makes navigating, finding a career path, and figuring out what your educational needs really are to pursue that career path. And it's this fallacy that I'm one wrong move away from totally just blowing up my life. And I think that the relationships that students can build, that the sooner they have an advisor that they trust, the sooner they're involved in a co-curricular activity with an advisor and friends that they can share that experience together. It's really about finding that support network here that helps to illuminate, like, you're carrying around the burden of stuff that's not even true and stuff that's not even real. And so to be able to just kind of break that wall and just be like, you realize that you could actually change majors like 3 more times and you'd still stick to landing. This will still happen for you. It's just as valuable to know what you're not into and what you don't like as what really hits and connects. So even the quote-unquote failures that you experience here are valuable, very valuable. And here they're more cost-effective and time-saving. So just put them in that way.
In this world, there are so many external inputs that it's hard to choose. Whether you look at social media, you look at whatever it is. How did you go from listening to everybody to really deciding who was most important to listen to?
I don't think that you have to go through some hardship or feel that you're alone to finally choose yourself. And it takes a lot. It takes active work. I don't choose myself every single day. But I think it's just listening to you and, like you said, finding your core values. What do I care about? And if you don't know, you won't know unless you seek out experience, unless you seek out opportunity. You won't know that you hate accounting until you take an accounting class and you're like, oh, well, this is terrible.
So it's interesting, you talk about this experience. Are you guys familiar with the Swahili word Ubuntu? UBU-NTO, FUHQ. What it means is I am because we are, right? And so our world is so interconnected. So my question is actually for you, Eric. It's, in your role, I mean, there are so many students that you have to help. Yeah. And there's only so little time. How do you find the drive, or where do you find the drive, or where do you manage that overwhelming feeling of all of the students that you could and need to and have the ability to touch, but no, you don't have the capacity.
Well, first off, it's a ton of sleepless nights knowing that I can't help everybody because I need to help everybody, even people I'll never meet, but really, it's a passion. Like, golly, I just love having the opportunity to come in and help students grow. Again, we were talking about leadership styles, and that's kind of what my leadership style has morphed into, is let's focus on growth. Like, come in here and leave higher than you can even put your dang hand, because experiences will do that to you. If you don't see the value in what I can bring and what your peers can bring and all of this stuff, that's totally fine. Come in, have a little bit of fun, go to class, do your work thing, get through and transfer on. But if you're willing to put the time in, man, I'm gonna invest in you 1,000-fold.
Well, I think as a student that you have impacted, I think it's easy as well to take what you've given me and try to give it to others, so they don't have to come to you all the time. Or if you don't have the capacity to help 500, we can help you do that. Me and many others that you have impacted, we're like, okay, this is what Eric taught us. This is how we shift from looking at a leader into becoming leaders of our own and passing that on. Whether you're my age, younger than me, or a professor that needs told, hey, it's all right, you had a rough day. It was still a good lesson. I still learned something. At a bare minimum. Like, if you come in here and you feel that you didn't have any friends and you left with one, that means the world to some kids. You don't have to have them move to Quincy and get them a job on campus and do all these extraordinary things for you to matter as a resource to people or as a friend to people. You weren't just someone that helped me. You made a connection with me, and then you helped me make a connection with so many others. I've met Payne here today that I don't think I would have had the opportunity to do so had I not met you and been in this position.
I'm not good at accepting compliments and words. I know you are because
this is your growth.
Yeah, no, but no, it's big time. Yeah. It's big time.
And I think about those big moments of student success that you look at how far someone comes in a calendar year, in 365 days. You and your work and your pursuit of resources has literally changed your life.
Absolutely.
And that, as nice as it is to credit Eric for part of that, it becomes this fuel source just to be around it. Just to be around people who are figuring out really important things about themselves, making really important decisions in their lives, that becomes an energy source that we can live off of. Yeah. And so I'm like, there's like 500 nasty emails I have the ability to respond to now. Like, we can slug through the grind of our work because we're powered by moments like this. I've been an officiant for student weddings. I dance at their weddings. I'm at their kids' christenings. Like, it's just this whole meta experience. It's bigger than a job. Yeah. And when we talk about values and purpose, that's exactly what we want for all of our students, whether they're working as diesel fuel techs or they're working in ag or they're working in education, suckers like us. That's what we want for them. We want for them to find a place to plug in that will become this fuel source. But really, like, acting as a resource, this is the dignity in our profession. So the things that students come to us and they're like, knock, knock, hey, I'm really sorry, I just had a quick question. They're always apologetic about the stuff that, like, actually gets us going the very most. Yeah. It's the talks that we have after class. It's the, like, random stop in with, like, I have a weird problem. This isn't your problem to solve, but, like, could you give me some help with this or some ideas about that?
One of my favorite things to say to students, specifically Kaydence, is stop apologizing. Hey, I'm really sorry to bother you, but and I'm like, why are you apologizing? That's literally what I'm here for.
Yeah.
So
and in our experience, it's when we hear that or when we see it in type that we're like, what you're about to do is asking me to do the coolest part of my job. Yeah. So, like, fire away. Yeah.
And what I love about what you just said was he touched one life, but he's touched so many in how you touched her life, because that's shown through, because you gave her permission, and then you liberated her from her fears by saying, no, let's work through that first problem and let's get you on campus. And I mean, that's why, again, I get goosebumps thinking about the work you guys do, because you're truly changing the trajectory of people's lives. And I don't think there's any better work, because what she's going to do over the next 50 years is far greater than what some CEO might do over the next 5. And so being able to touch lives, I love the vehicle that you guys have and the uniqueness that John Wood has to offer to really give young adults who are in a crazy time of their life the opportunity to figure that out.
Absolutely, and I think that's so much more at John Wood than just the Student Life program. Like HK sat here and said, she lives to help her students. She lives to, you want to ask me a question about something that has nothing to do with the assignment I gave, that's just fine. Come on in.
It's starting that process early. It's getting them on campus and seeing those connections that we can make. It's connecting them with the right faculty. It's connecting them with the right resources. And then they're here for a year or 2 years while they're here to get their associates, and then then we help them move on to that next step as well, which is the coolest part and the worst part of a community
2 years
college.
goes so fast, fast.
But the cool part is there's always the next group coming in. So, Kaydence, what advice do you have for an incoming freshman? Maybe they're attending orientation. Maybe it's even somebody who's just not quite sure, but somebody new to college. What's your advice to them?
I think ask questions. The worst you're going to be told is what you didn't want to hear. It's just not having expectations. It's, why are you here? Why are you giving orientation? Eric, are you enjoying giving orientation? Why should I come to John Wood? Why should I go to college at all? Whatever questions you have that circle through your brain, why did you pick out that shirt today? Ask questions. And if they don't have the answers, they're going to find someone to have the answers for you.
HK, how about you? You're from the faculty perspective.
Yeah, and I'm going to have a lot of faculty friends who are like, why didn't you say read the syllabus? So let's just assume that it's read the syllabus and read the assignment prompt. No, read it. Slow it down and read it. But my real actual advice is try and help yourself build good habits. Because habits, if you can instill good habits, if you can figure out what's your style of taking notes in speech class, where it's not the most complicated textbook ever. If you can figure out a good method, then when you're in A and P2 up to your eyeballs in new words, new concepts, build yourself a study habit. If you take medication every day, go get a pill sorter and make a Sunday night habit of putting get the meds, take the meds, refill the meds. Whatever the habits are that will serve you, and they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be like TikTok idealized. You don't have to start bullet journaling, but just build yourself a couple habits that you can find a way to stick to, and you can always do more. And you can but good habits, starting those early in your collegiate career, they are really, really powerful.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for just joining us, giving us a little time just to talk about leadership, about students. It's all of our passion, and I think combined we can continue to make the world better, and especially Quincy better. So.
Yeah.